So thank you. Hi, Abby. Thank you for joining me today for the Future Skills 2020 course. Could you just first tell me a little bit about yourself and your career and entrepreneurial journey so far?
Yeah, sure. My name is Abby Carter. I am a 37-year-old Welsh lady. I have a BSc in archaeology from Cardiff University, and then an MSc in forensic archaeology and international crime scene investigation from Bournemouth University. By profession, I am a forensic archaeologist, which means we search, locate and excavate homicides and genocides, and I specialise in war crimes, so on the genocide side of things. I'm also by day a forensic consultant, and I run my own business in Cardiff called Forensic Resources, which is a forensic science consultancy firm, which I set up 13 years ago. And I'm a human rights activist, and so I spend most of my spare time working for several charities, mostly and primarily for the genocide charity Remembering Srebrenica, as I am the co-chair of the Welsh board for Remembering Srebrenica.
Excellent, thank you. So you've said you've set up your own kind of business. I think we all know the entrepreneurial process is not a linear one at all. So is there a time where you faced some kind of adverse situation or problem before you got to the position that you're at today?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say probably the worst time was when I actually set up the company, because it wasn't my initial plan to set up a business. I rather fell into it due to circumstance at the time. Not to say it wasn't a great decision, but it was not a plan. So I didn't really have an entrepreneurial hat on when I was doing it. So I really had a knock of confidence. I had very low self-esteem at the time because I'm a perfectionist, and I found it very difficult to be doing something somewhat ad hoc and not really knowing what I was doing, because I'd never had any training. I hadn't ever studied business or anything like that. I was very much a scientist and planning a science future. And so to not be in your safe comfort zone was really difficult for me. So I think initially that was a problem for me. And then once I had got started, and it was a couple of years in, I was at a networking event. I was describing what I did to a group of people that were asking me, and a lawyer turned around and said how my job was not a ladylike job. And it really floored me. And I'd spent so many years trying to convince myself that what I was doing was the right thing and trying to build up my confidence. And then for him to say that, I didn't really see the point of it either, but it embarrassed me so much in front of this group of people that I had to politely sort of laugh it off and then politely exit from the group. But it really affected me.
That's such a frustrating situation to be in. So where you said that knocked your confidence, how did you manage to solve that and get beyond it using these active learning skills that you have?
When it comes to the lack of confidence with the company setup, I just surrounded myself with people that would know what I was meant to be doing. So I had a business mentor, I had a personal mentor, I had friends and family. My family are quite business orientated and also science oriented as well. So I had quite a good half and half with my family. So I would listen to them a lot. One thing I was really sure about was the fact that I was not good at working from home, because I was just sat at home trying to do what I didn't know. So I got a scholarship and I started working in an office. I took an office space with lots of other entrepreneurs, and so I would just feed off them. I'd ask them questions, I would learn from them, and then I would go to pretty much every networking event or business event that was on offer. There's so many free options available, and or I would be learning on webinars in the evenings and stuff like that.
That's really interesting. So if there was someone coming up, so say I look up to you like a mentor, someone like me, what would you tell other people facing similar situations at the start of their entrepreneurial journey or their career, in terms of learning how you've learned things, the way you've learned things?
I think you need to absorb from other people. So I'm really not a theory-based person, so I benefit from mentors, and I really benefit from just sounding ideas off, because 90% of the time I would find that I was right in my thoughts, but I kind of needed somebody else to reassure me and say, yes, you're absolutely right. Why are you even questioning it? Just do it. And I think, the Nike advert of saying just do it is actually really accurate, because there's so much that holds people back just from what their mind is saying. And actually, if they did a bit more about what their heart said, they'd be fine. And actually, I think a lot of people forget that it's okay to make mistakes. My world is law, so the best barristers and judges in the world make mistakes every single day because they're just humans. And I think I forgot that at the beginning, and I felt like I had to be perfect. So I think if people realise that actually people will be proud of you and impressed by you by just doing your very best, I think that would make people be a little bit more confident, and they would take more risks.
Yeah. Okay, and it's probably my last question for you, but if in one sentence you could summarize in terms of your career how you've used active learning, where has that played a role? How do you learn best, and how will you continue to learn as well with kind of where you're going in the future?
Yeah, I think my best way to learn is on the job. So I'm not a theory-based person, as I said before, so I really like to learn from making mistakes, or suddenly something will click and I'll go, oh, right, okay, that's how I need to deal with that person, because actually this is how they are emotive when I talk about something. Or I did an NVQ a few years into working with the setting up the company, and it was all evidence-based. So in order to answer my assignments, I had to use my company as an example, or a situation in my company, and that made me understand every single part of my company inside out. And that's when my confidence totally grew. I didn't need the qualification for my job, but I did need it for my confidence, and it was the best thing I ever did. Yeah, I suppose every day I use skills based on learning every day in my job. There's always something that I will have to learn to be able to get through another meeting or another hard situation that comes with industry or with a pandemic or something like that. So you just learn on the job, and there's no right or wrong, and that's what I've learned.
I really like to just throw yourself in at the deep end and just hope you swim.
Yeah, and you will, because if you've already got to this point of wanting to set up a business, or knowing that you are that type of person, you'll absolutely swim in that situation. You won't sink, because you've got the passion for it and the drive, and all you've got. The only thing I find that holds people back is their confidence and their lack of self-worth or credit that they don't give themselves. And I think as soon as people realize actually you've got something to give, then you'll be absolutely fine.
Excellent. Thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day as well.
Oh, my pleasure.